my biggest issues, one of the main issues I have, and it doesn't matter if you're year 7 or year 13, is reading. Now, this may sound like a really peculiar comment to make, and you can all read. And it all starts with this question: is there only one way to read? All right. So, in the chat box, drop in whatever you think. Is there one way to read? All right. Give me a yes, give me a no, give me a possible idea of whether you think, what kind of reading ideas you have. All right. So go on, go for it. Does anybody have any? Maybe. All right. Okay. I mean, Charlotte, I'm assuming you think maybe there's only one way to read. All right, fine. I'm okay with that. Yep. All right, Lil. I'm okay with that. Okay. So the truth of it is there are two types of reading, two main. There's actually a number of different ways of describing it. But for me, as somebody who teaches and trains, very luckily some people have moved on to be really good scientists. There are two ways to read. And I'm going to use some quite technical jargon. There is passive reading, all right, and active reading. And these two are very, very different. And there are ways of making sure that you pick the right kind of reading. So passive reading is, my daughter's a little bit, actually, some of my daughters are your age, some of my daughters are a bit younger than you. I have 4 daughters who like to terrorize their daddy. So passive reading is something they love doing. Actually, my son loves reading as well. And passive reading is something you would do when reading fiction. And when I'm talking about fiction, I'm talking about novels, stories. Let's just put stories in there. So when you read stories, this is passive reading. You get a feel for it. I was very lucky when I first started teaching. Well, actually, I was head of chemistry at the very first Harry Potter came out. And reading suddenly blew up, and that's something I think J.K. Rowling did amazingly well for reading. So if you read something like Harry Potter or any other stories, that's passive reading. It's really good. You don't need to go too much detail. You can miss a lot and still get a really good idea of the story and still really enjoy the book. This is passive reading, and this is what a lot of students do. And this is all well good and really good for certain uses. In science, it is the wrong type of reading. And the kind of reading you want to do in science is active reading. It is like you're digging for gold. You're a gold hunter. You're looking for clues. You're a problem solver. You're a detective. You're what's it called? What my kids love that book. Skullduggery. And I've forgotten the main character's name. Hold on, I'm going to ask someone. Who's the main character?
Valkyrie.
No. Who?
Valkyrie.
Is that the inspector, kind of?
No, that's
Skullduggery. He's not the main character. Valkyrie's the main character.
All right, the main character for me is Skullduggery. And Skullduggery is a detective, and this is what you do with active reading. You are digging for clues. So how do you switch? And this is, to put it down here, you are a detective. You are actually a word detective. And to me, this is the best type of reading. I do like reading stories. I don't have time. I haven't read a novel, a fiction book in a couple of decades. But I love active reading. It is you being a word detective. What is it? What are the clues? What are they getting at? What am I trying to find out? And my students turn around and say, well, how do you switch? How do you switch from passive reading to active reading? And there's a really easy way. Now, as much as I say this is an easy way, I'm assuming a lot of you have heard this. The really easy way is and it is underlining the keywords. Underlining the keywords. This is something I have a real issue with older students. And it is a known issue with boys. And unfortunately, boys do not read as much as girls. Girls outperform boys on every subject in every exam, generally. As sexist as it sounds, this is a known issue within education. So, underline the key words. And you don't even have to know which keywords they are, but you have to try to find the keywords. Now, what I mean by keyword is something that is specific to science and specific to, let me just go over here. So a keyword, oh dear, what have I done to that? There we go. A keyword is something that you have learnt in science. And I'm talking about science. It's subject specific. So if you're doing geography, it'd be some word that you've learnt in geography. And I'm going to leave it at that. And it's the actual attempt at finding keywords shifts you from passive reading to active reading. So to me, it's a very enjoyable thing. It's very different. I can sit there, and I used to love books by Isaac Asimov. I could sit there when I was your age and just read all day. I read an Isaac Asimov novel. And it's a very different type of reading. This is not enjoyment per se. It is enjoyment in hunting, right? And this is going to be today's task. You are going to hunt. So microscopy, or the use of a microscope in biology, and you've got to know how to do it, is something that is relatively easy, but does require two skills. Understanding the question, that is underlining your keywords, all right? And you can see in this example that I've put here of this text, and there's a lot of text here, a keyword has been underlined, has been boldened. I should use that. I kind of like that word, boldened for you, all right? And your job is to read through this whilst underlining the keywords. This is very, very different to the kind of things you're taught in primary school, which is finish as fast as you can. No, 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 no. You are a detective. It is to find every clue, line them up, and get to the answer and be precise. This is not about speed. This is about accuracy. So what you've got is you read through it first and you try to underline every keyword, right? Once you've read it, you answer the questions. Now, even though I've said you've answered the questions, what you must do when I say answer the questions, before you answer the questions, you must underline the keywords in the question. So, I'm going to add to this here. Actually, yeah, I'm going to add to this here. Something that you've learned in science, or something in it, something scientific. Second thing, underline the words in the text, and also underline the keywords in the question. Now, in the question, the maximum number of keywords you are going to have is 3. All right? So I'm going to add on to this. So the question is, so what I mean by the question, as when we zoom in here, this is the question. Right? So I'm going to tell you, name, that's the command word. Scientist who coined the following terms: microscope, cell, animalcule. Right? So I've got these 3 keywords in the question, and I've got to name the scientist. And that's what I mean by underlining the keywords. So I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to let you do it. Okay. That's going to be your first task today. Hopefully we have enough time to move on to units. If we don't, it really doesn't matter. I will do that in the next session. So once you've, once you've answered this worksheet, you've got a second one over here. All right. It looks very, very similar, but it's slightly different. Actually, I'm gonna roll these around. I rather would have that one. Let's actually, do it whichever way you want. They're very similar. Right, so I'm just going to join this one to this one. There you go. So you can do it anywhere you want. Okay, they're very similar in their answers. All right, I'm going to stop that recording.